Hi, my name is Drew and I'm going to be walking you through the Outdoors RV 28 BKS today. Starting right up front here, we're going to take a look at that coupling and uncoupling procedure. What we have right up front here of the tongue is going to be the coupler. We are going to need to start in the unlocked position, and that's what you're going to see here. It does hold open in that unlocked position, which is going to make that loading process a lot easier for you. So from there, we are going to raise the jack 3 inches above our ball. We are then going to center ourselves underneath the coupler here. From there, of course, we're going to lower the jack back down on the ball, putting all of the camper's weight onto the vehicle. Once we are fully seated on that ball, we can go ahead and slide that coupler into that lock position. Now what we're looking for here is we have two little tabs, or vampire teeth as I like to call them. We want to make sure that those are resting flush on the frame as well. So from there, we could go ahead and use a secondary pin to go ahead and secure that latch further, keep it from rattling loose going down the road, anything like that. We can then go ahead and raise this jack all the way up from that point on because we are secured onto the vehicle. So once we have that all the way up, we can go ahead and take our tow chains. Now it is very important that we do cross these tow chains underneath the coupler. I'm just going to go ahead and unwind this breakaway cable from the tow chain. So what we're looking for here is that our tow chains are going to be crossed underneath the coupler. They're going to hook onto the receiver, something like that. Reason being is because it's state law in Texas that these need to be crossed. It is also state law in Texas that these cannot make contact with the pavement at any given time. Likelihood of which with a camper of this height is unlikely, but of course make sure you're not allowing that to happen. Also make sure you're giving yourself enough room to make your turns left or right. Riding right beside those tow chains is going to be your emergency breakaway cable. Now this is your last line of defense. If you were having any mishaps when it does come to coupling or when it does come to the coupler or the tow chain hooks, this is going to be your last line of defense. What this does is acts like a ripcord to the electric brakes. As the two vehicles separate, this pulls away. That's going to put full 12 volts onto those electric brakes, essentially helping to prevent a runaway camper scenario. Up top here we have your 7-way cord. This is going to plug into the corresponding receptacle on the bumper of your vehicle. This is going to give you full function to your tow vehicle's braking system, charging system, marker lights, tail lights, things like that. Just make sure again that you have enough room to make your turns left or right without pulling this out of the bumper. And again, that we are fully inserted so this isn't going to come out inadvertently. Up top here we have your electric tongue jack. We've talked about it a little bit already, but you have a light that's going to give you a point of reference if you're backing up to the unit at dark time. Also going to allow you to see a little bit better if you are doing any coupling and uncoupling again after dark. Other than that, you have up or down operation clearly marked there in terms of direction. In the event that you do have a power loss situation, emergency only scenario, you can go ahead and load this manually. You're going to go ahead and remove that built-in level, toss that off to the side. In this front storage compartment, you're going to find a crank handle that is designed specifically for this power jack. And what that's going to allow you to do is again, get the trailer loaded or unloaded in an emergency situation. So it'll work very well for that. Now hopping back here to your propane tanks. This unit has two 30-pound propane tanks on board. They are going to be full for you today. Open and close service valve on the top. I find most people are somewhat familiar with the operation of these tanks, although they may be slightly larger than what you're used to seeing. Again, open and close valve there on the top. In between the two tanks, you do have a switchover regulator. If we go ahead and have whichever valve open, if we are directionalized towards that tank, we're going to go ahead and draw off of that tank. If we go ahead and have both valves in the open position and we directionalize this to that middle position, we're going to go ahead and draw off of both tanks equally. So very straightforward. Very easy to use. You do have a flow indicator here in between. If that indicates red, that means that there is no flow currently present within the line. If I go ahead and open that tank, we can see that switch over to green, telling you that the flow of propane is moving through the line. So it doesn't tell you how much you have, it just tells you that you do have some propane flowing through the line. Directly behind that, we have your 2 interstate D-cycle batteries. Now these are group 24 battery. They are a lead acid battery, so they are going to carry some maintenance with them. What that's going to entail for you is 2 or 3 times a year, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull those vent panels up. We're going to refill with distilled water as necessary. So you're going to find a clear marked water line underneath those vent panels. It is just our goal to go ahead and maintain that water level. Also, we're going to utilize the battery disconnect switch for periods of long-term storage. It's going to help isolate those batteries, you know, keep any nominal or phantom draws off the system. We're going to get eyes on that switch as we make our way through the camper. So moving on down here, we have large storage compartment here. Now we do have lights on either side of the storage compartment. Those are going to be within the compartment here. Easy on off switch directly on the fixture there. So nothing too crazy with that. Coming down, if we take a look down low, we can see your stabilizer jacks. Now those are on all 4 corners of the unit. Those are electronically controlled. We're going to get to the operation of those when we move further down on the other side of the camper. Right here we have an access window that's going to give us access to your secondary your secondary gray water valve. So with a large unit like we have here, they do separate the gray water holding tanks. What we have here is going to be that separate tank. So with any of these Blade X valves, to open them, it is just going to be a 6-inch pull towards you. And we can see the bayonet style fitting here. So you'll make your connection there onto that piping. And this goes with any of the dump valves. We'll kind of revisit this as we go because we have the shared gray water and black water bayonet fitting further down on the camper. So to open this up, it is again just a 6-inch pull towards you. Now while we're here looking at the side of the slide out here, it is a good point to talk about slide out maintenance. This is a very large slide out, so it is very important that we do maintain it properly. What this is going to entail is once every 90 days, we're going to want to spray that gearing down there. Looking right here, we're going to want to go ahead and spray this gearing down with a lithium grease. We are then going to run that slide in and out a few times to distribute that grease on those tracks. And we're going to want to do that every 90 days. Also, on that 90-day maintenance schedule, we want to make sure we are conditioning all these seals within the unit. So we have, especially with this slide out, you of course not only have the flap here that we need to condition, but we also have seals here that also need condition. You're also going to, believe it or not, have another set of seals within the inside of the unit that are going to need conditioned as well. These seals do wrap fully around the unit, so make sure that you are, again, conditioning them with an RV grade seal conditioner once every 90 days. Moving along, we have your lug nuts and your tire pressure down here that we need to discuss. Lug nuts have been torqued to 100 foot-pounds here in the shop. Manufacturer recommends a retorque procedure. That is going to be the first 15, 25, 50, and 100 miles of initial travel. It is very important that we do go ahead and retorque those down to 100 foot-pounds, again, making sure they are maintaining that torque. Manufacturer further recommends at the start of each trip thereon after that we do go ahead and check and make sure they are again at 100 foot-pounds of torque. Now, tire pressure is also very important. With any trailer tire, it's very important that we do run those at the max. That tire pressure rating is not only stamped in the sidewall of the tire in that traditional location, but if we come forward here, it is also stamped here on the data tag. Now these are load range E tires, which means they carry a 80 PSI tire pressure rating. It is very important that we do just go ahead and again maintain that to 80 PSI tire pressure. Now, very, very recessed underneath the slide out, and I'm trying to think the best way for me to get to it is probably going to be here. If I kind of crawl under here, we have your freshwater dump valve here. Now that's denoted by the white handle here. Now that corresponds with a opening there on the backside of the tank. What that's going to do is allow you to dump your freshwater holding tank from this location. Again, with any of these Blade X valves, it is just a 6-inch pull towards you to go ahead and open up that valve. Hopping on out of here again. We're going to come to the rear here. And again, I'm going to drop down low, and we're going to get eyes on your main, I would call it your main dump location here. Now, tucked underneath this J-wrap, we have your actual dump handles. We have gray for gray water and black for black water. So they do share a certain amount of plumbing in this scenario. Gray water is going to be anything that comes from the sink or the shower. Black water is going to be anything that comes from the toilet. So toilet waste, body waste, things like that, they are going to be considered black water. Now with any black water holding tank, it is very important that we keep that valve in the closed position. We're going to use the monitor panel on the inside, and we are only going to dump as necessary. So it is very important, again, that we keep that solid body waste in as wet or flowing condition as we can. And the only way to do that is by keeping that in the closed position. When it does come to dump, again, it is just going to be a 6-inch pull towards you. Make sure that you don't have the gray and the black water valve in the open position. At the same time, we want to avoid any cross-contamination issues or anything of that nature. And again, it is just a 6-inch pull towards you. Now, if we look further up about this location, underneath that J-wrap as well, we're going to see your low point drains. Now, those are going to be the lowest point in the unit's plumbing. Everything in between water source and fixture is going to be drained via these two locations here. Now the valves to open those up are going to be within the cabinetry there on the inside, but this is the location where they are actually going to dump, so keep that in mind. Porch light here, you know, switches right there on the fixture, nothing too crazy. Hopping up here to your outside shower, again, from a functionality standpoint, nothing too out of the realm. You have access to hot and cold water. This hose coils up around the fixture and stores in that location. Again, nothing too crazy or out of the realm there. We have your black water tank flush there. Now that corresponds with a jet inside the black water tank. It is specifically designed to help blast off compounded toilet waste, body waste, things like that. The idea being is that you would allow water to flush, to flow into this area for a certain amount of time, filling that tank up. And then when you go ahead and pull that black water valve, it's going to allow that to rinse the tank. Now you have to be very important when utilizing that black water tank flush, because we don't want to overflow that tank. There's nothing to keep that water in the tank. Path of least resistance is going to be the rooftop septic vents. So if that is left for an indefinite amount of time, it will certainly overflow that tank and you know, come out on the roof. So make sure you're having somebody, or make sure you're cautiously watching that monitor panel on the inside as you watch that tank fill up. Of course, I wouldn't push my luck with that. Once you're fairly satisfied with the level of full, you're going to run out here. You're going to go ahead and pull that black water valve and allow that pressure to that tank to be rinsed, essentially. Moving on, we have your city water connection here. Now this is what you're going to use in the capacity of an RV park. City water is pressurized directly from the line. More often than not, it is overpressurized. So it is very important that we use a water pressure regulator. This water pressure regulator is going to hook directly onto the spigot side of the hose. Your hose then hooks onto that. And then, of course, this trailer bound connection is rotated by turning the hose here. So very straightforward, very easy to use. Very important that we use a water pressure regulator. This specific one that we do include with the unit is going to keep that water pressure below 40 to 50 psi, which the unit is rated for. If that happens to not be enough pressure for your liking, you can go ahead and upgrade to a high pressure regulator or an adjustable water pressure regulator. As long as we're not exceeding that 75 psi max pressure rating, we're going to be in good shape there. We have your 30 your 30 to 100 your 30 amp 110 volt trailer bound connection here. Now this is only going to plug into the unit one way. If we go ahead and look at the receptacle, there is one L-shaped prong. If we line that up here, it's going to go ahead and plug straight in. It'll be an 1/8 inch turn to the right. That's going to go ahead and lock it on. Then we do have a secondary collar here. We can screw down, lock it in further to keep somebody from potentially tripping on it. It does have an indicator that we are receiving power once we see that blue light. That's a really cool feature with these Furon power cords and receptacles that I really like. It's going to be my recommendation for every unit that I deliver to add a 30 amp 110 volt surge protector in line. Generally, it's going to be my recommendation that you plug that surge protector directly into the power source and then your power cord into that, and then ultimately making this trailer bound connection. Reason being is, especially with a larger unit like this, we have a lot of sensitive electronics within, a lot of things going on. They are very susceptible to dirty power, substandard wiring, or surges. So really, truly, the number one thing you can do to protect your investment is going to be to further invest in a 110 volt 30 amp surge protector. Also, we do include a 30 to 15 amp reducer with the unit. That's going to be beneficial if you're trying to pre-cool the refrigerator, maybe check the function of some low draw appliances before taking the unit out. This will work well for that. Now, if you want to do a little bit more than that, maybe run your air conditioner, things like that, you're going to want to upgrade this reducer to a dog bone style reducer, which accomplishes the same thing. It is just separated by about 12 inches worth of cord. It's going to help dissipate heat a lot better, especially if you are, again, running a higher draw appliance. Now, you may still have reliability issues depending on what you're trying to run, but it's going to be a lot better option than this puck style reducer. Beside that power plug, we have your cable satellite inlet. This is just a standard RG6 cable fitting that is a pass-through connection to the designated TV area. These do terminate at the different TV areas of the unit. And again, it is just our recommendation that when utilizing this, whether it's going to be, whether that's going to be like a park cable service or a aftermarket satellite package, this is going to be the inlet of those services. And again, they terminate at the TV area. Coming around here to the back side of the unit, of course, we have your hitch capacity here. As the sticker notes, that is rated for 250 pounds. That's helpful for a bike rack, cargo rack, whatever you decide to put back here. Just make sure we're not exceeding that 250 pounds. You have a full-size spare. When it does come to changing a tire, we're going to put our jack directly on the axle as close to the tire as we can without it interfering in our work. We do want to pay special attention that the jack that we are using to do so, which is not included with the unit, is going to lift the unit high enough to do that. This unit is very high off the ground, so it'd be my guess that most automotive jacks that are going to be equipped with your vehicle aren't going to do the job. But that is something for you to find out on your own. Make sure that you can change the tire in the event that you need to. Rooftop ladder access here. Now we're going to use that for our structural maintenance. When we talk about that, what that means is every 90 days, again, we're going to get on a maintenance schedule. Anywhere on the body and the roof line where two pieces come together, they utilize some sort of sealant. Generally, what you're going to find here on the body is going to be 100% silicone. We're going to look for any degradation in those beads of silicone and any cracking, any gaps, any peeling, anything like that, we're going to touch up as necessary. We're going to do a very similar thing on the roof, but you're going to use a different product up there. So up on the roof, what you find is a self-leveling lap sealant. Generally, you're going to have to source that from an RV dealer, but again, we're looking for the same things, any cracking, any peeling, any separation, and we are going to touch up as necessary. It is very important that we do catch any water intrusion issues or any issues before we have true water intrusion to the unit, and we do want to catch those as soon as possible. Also back here, we have a tube storage bumper. You can go ahead and utilize this not only for a sewage hose storage option, but for any long storage that you may have that you may choose to store here in the bumper. It does have a cap on each side. It is removable. Will work well for most sewage hose or long storage. Cargo door here. Now what we are seeing here is the bunk bed within the rear of the unit. Of course, that's on some gas struts that can be lifted out of the way. If you're storing any tall items in this area, you can go ahead and do so. So it works really cool to have that option back here for storage. And then when you want to go ahead and use it as a bed, you just go ahead and pull this down. Of course, the mattress as well. And then we see the inside there of that actual bunk bed. Just going to take a look down low, make sure we're not missing anything, and we are still great. Steps here operate very easy. The bottom one folds in, and then they all kind of fold in just like that. On the way out, they give you a nice handle here, fold down and out, very easy. We have an assist rail here, locks in the out position. Again, we can fold that against the door during travel, locks in that out position. We have a couple 110 volt all-weather outlets here. Nothing too crazy, just some 15 amp receptacles. Allow you to have access to electronics here out while enjoying the awning. What we have here is going to be our potable water tank. Now this is how we're going to fill that onboard water tank in the event that we do not have access to full-time running water, or we're boondocking or something like that. To do so, we're going to stick a garden hose directly in that orifice. We are going to fill that up to it overflows. Once we are full, we are going to need to pressurize that system, and we're going to do so with that onboard 12 volt water pump. So that switch is going to be located on the inside. We're going to get eyes on that when we do go into the inside of the unit, but that is going to be your boondocking option for water. Right here we have your refrigerator vent. Now, from a maintenance standpoint, there's just generally not too terribly much you're going to do from this location. It's not what we would consider a customer serviceable unit. What we can do from this location is going to be a bit of prevention. We need to prevent any mud daubers or flying insects from nesting within the compartment here. Those insects are attracted to the smell of propane, so what they do is they crawl as deep within the appliance as they can. They build their dirt nest directly over that flow of propane, generally leaving the appliance inoperable until those nests are removed. Now, what you're going to do to accomplish that is you're going to screen off this vent cover further. Now, you have some louvers here. We do just want to make sure we utilize those aftermarket specifically cut screens to do so. We're going to go ahead and screen these off, and we're going to keep those mud daubers and flying insects again from nesting within the compartment. Now, even with those screens in place, I want you to go ahead and remove this vent a couple times a year. Give it a visual inspection inside there. Make sure nothing's gotten in. Make sure nothing's nesting. Keeping everything in good shape. To install this vent, we're going to put the tabs down. So we're going to seat those first. That's going to put us in line here with these pegs in the hole. And then once we are flush here all the way around, we just go ahead and give this a slight turn. That's going to go ahead and lock that vent cover on. Below that, we have your furnace. This is a Suburban 12 volt furnace with direct spark ignition. What that's going to mean for you is that all your controls are going to be there on the inside of the unit. Not much you're going to be doing here. Again, propane burning appliance. We do need to protect it from the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. Other than that, this is an exhaust vent, so be sure to let it exhaust. This being like your front porch area, we're not going to want to put a lawn chair, put anything up in front of it. We do just want to make sure that it is free breathing, and we're not going to run into any issues with that. Moving on, again, taking a quick look down low, make sure we're not missing anything. That's going to bring us to your 10-gallon water heater here. Now, this is a dual source water heater. It runs on 110 volt electricity, or also runs on propane with a 12 volt direct spark ignition. Now, manufacturer recommends two very specific things to remember with this, and that's going to be anytime the unit's going to be in storage for more than 7 days, it is very important that we do go ahead and drain the appliance, and it's very important that we follow a certain set of steps to do so from a safety standpoint. Manufacturer further recommends that when returning the unit back to service that we do go ahead and feed 10 gallons of water to the appliance before lighting it. So backing up a little bit, to drain the unit, we're of course going to give it ample time to cool down, 3 or 4 hours depending on you. So just once you're fairly confident of the temperature, it's very important that we do go ahead and depressurize the unit first. To depressurize it, we're going to cut the inflow of water to the overall unit. So if that's going to be the city water connection, we're going to physically turn off that valve. If that's going to be the potable water, we're going to turn off the 12-volt water pump. So once we have no new water flowing into the unit, we're then going to go ahead and depressurize it. So to depressurize it, we're going to use the hot side of any fixture within the unit. So whether that's the outside shower we saw on the other side, whether that's the kitchen sink, bathroom sink, whatever, we're going to go ahead and use that fixture to go ahead and depressurize it. So we're going to turn the hot side of the fixture on. It's going to allow some water to come from that fixture as well. Not a lot, but it's just going to blow off that excess pressure. You know, less than a gallon you're going to see flow from that area. From there, you're confident this is depressurized, it is safe to drain further. We're going to come down here with an 1 1/16 ratchet, or excuse me, 1 1/16 socket and extension, and go ahead and remove that drain plug further. Now we have no water in the unit. You can go ahead and see what that drain plug is going to look like removed. This is also an anode rod. It is a consumable part. So what an anode rod does is it acts like a magnet for hard water deposits, calcification, things like that. They deposit onto the end of this anode rod and eat away at that as opposed to the inside of the water heater. Now, again, consumable part, expect to get a year or two in between the anode rod changes depending on use. Sold as one whole assembly, so you'll be replacing your cap or your plug as well as your anode rod. Now with this back in place and screwed in, we would then prime the water heater before returning it back to service or using it again. So to prime the water heater, it's going to sound very similar to the depressurizing procedure, but essentially the exact opposite. So we're going to introduce an overall inlet of water to the unit. So again, if we're focusing on the city water connection, we're going to turn on that flow of water there at the fixture. If we are using potable water, we are going to go ahead and turn the onboard water pump on. Once we have water flowing into the unit overall, we're again going to go to that hot side of any fixture and we're going to turn it on. Once we turn it on, that flow is initially going to be very airy, very interrupted, spitty. What it's doing is it's displacing the air within the unit and filling it up with 10 gallons of water. So once we see that flow normalize at the fixture we're using to do this, that is our indicator that we do have 10 gallons of water within the unit. It is safe to operate it, or it is safe to turn it on without doing any damage to the water heater itself. Now this is a dual source water heater, runs on 110 volt electricity as well as propane gas with 12 volt direct spark ignition. What we have here is we have a toggle switch to turn on that electric heating element. So you're going to do so here. If we're talking about the propane heating element, that's going to be turned on from the inside of the unit. And again, as with any propane burning appliance, it is very important that we further screen off these louvers and this grating from the intrusion of mud daubers and flying insects. When we do go ahead to put this on, we put the tabs down first, line up those. That's going to put us in line for the latch. It is a spring latch, so we just pull that towards us and give it a rotate. Rotate that, and it's going to, of course, lock it on. Same steps as we've already seen. Bottom folds in, the rest fold into the trailer. Coming around here to the storage compartment here. Within this compartment, we not only have that same light switch that we saw on the other side, that same compartment light, but we also have your stabilizer jack crank handle. Or excuse me, we also have your electric stabilizer jack switches. Now those are labeled front to back, extend and retract. Now they do both sides at the same time, both the driver and the passenger side at the same time. You're going to want to inspect those as they go down. Once they make contact with the pavement, you're going to stop immediately. And again, that's just a momentary switch. It does put both sides down at the same time. Also in that compartment, we have your battery disconnect switch. I referenced this at the beginning of this presentation. That's going to be overall just good general battery maintenance to isolate those batteries for periods of long-term storage. With any 12 volts With any 12-volt system, there's going to be nominal or phantom draws within that system, and the only way to eliminate those 100% is going to be isolating the battery. In this scenario, we do that just by flipping the switch. In this scenario, it's going to look something like that. In that off position, that battery is isolated for all intents and purposes. It would accomplish the same thing as physically disconnecting the battery. Other than that, we have your solar plug here. Now this is designed for portable solar. You can go ahead and utilize this for any briefcase style folding panel. Any portable panel is going to utilize that Anderson style plug, and that is helpful to maintain batteries, help push you further along or further off grid for longer periods of time. Now essentially it is a plug and play connection here at this location, and it is a direct connection to the battery. The idea being is that you could park your unit in the shade while taking that secondary panel out into the sun, and it's going to allow you to still take advantage of some solar. Now these portable panels, they have the charge controller built directly into the panel itself. They kind of secondarily function, they have the charge controller built directly into the panel itself. They work very well. That charge controller is essentially the brains of the operation. That's going to take in the energy as necessary without overcharging the batteries. So a very cool feature to have included with this unit. So lastly, we're going to come up here to the cable lock that is included here with the camper. This is a really cool feature. What this allows you to do is secure any outdoor equipment you may have. Any generators, motorbikes, anything like that, you can go ahead and secure with this cable lock. It is a ratcheting lock, so you can go ahead and pull it out and allow you to wrap it around, again, whatever you're trying to secure. So really cool feature. It's a nice option to have, and it's going to keep all your outdoor equipment nice and secure. That just about covers it here on the outside of the unit. We're going to go ahead and hop on the inside. There's a lot to see in there. We're going to go ahead and take a look at those features. Alrighty, so coming here into the unit, first up is going to be your fire extinguisher. It is very important that we do test all of your safety equipment every time we take the unit out. What that's going to entail for your fire extinguisher here is we're going to go ahead and push that green test tab down. If it springs back, that means we still have life in the unit. If it stays depressed, it's time to pull out and replace. To my left here, we have the bunk beds within the unit. Each bunk is going to have a light up top, of course, its own set of USB ports, and its own set of 110 volt outlets. Other than that, not too terribly much to be said about those. We already saw that this bunk does fold up to allow some storage there from that large cargo compartment. Coming into the bathroom of the unit here, right inside the door, we have your main GFI outlet here. Now, all of the receptacles within the unit are on that same circuit. What that means for you is that this is going to be your central reset point. So if any of those receptacles get overloaded, they are all going to follow suit. This would be, again, that reset point there. Again, coming here into the bathroom, focusing on the shower here, we have this multi-positional shower rod, which is a really cool feature. It does, when using this space as a bathroom, it allows you to have the illusion of a lot more space. And then the same goes for when you're actually taking a shower. That bow at the top really means all the difference when it does come to having some room there to spread your wings. Now the actual fixture here within the shower is very indicative of what you would typically see within a camper. It does have the on-off the on-off switch there to help you conserve overall water consumption. Diverter down there on the fixture to allow, you get a small tub here, and then you pull that up, and that's going to send that water to the actual fixture. Pedal style porcelain bowl toilet here. What that means is it's going to be a light press to feed water to the bowl, a full press to flush. It is very important that we do use a single ply RV grade toilet paper, as well as chemical treatments to deodorize that tank, as well as a tissue dissolver to help dissolve that paper down. If you have any questions on the right products to use or what we would recommend, feel free to go ahead and give our parts department a call. They would again be happy to educate you on what would be best. Right here inside the door, we not only have your light switch, that's going to control the overhead lights. We have a water pump switch here. This is going to be a redundant switch. We have a water pump switch at the forward end of the camper as well, but having this redundant switch allows you to, if you were in here using the facilities and you forgot to turn on the water pump, you could do so from this location here. We have your max air fan controls as well. That's going to control the fan above my head remotely. You can open that vent, close that vent from this location, or choose a 1 through 4 fan speed there to operate that, and then we can of course close it again from that location. Medicine cabinet, kind of sink fixture here. This is all kind of the usual suspects, nothing too out of the ordinary that we in here. So moving on. Coming over here to the couch area, we of course have the light switch that's going to turn these lights on, as well as this couch is a pull-out couch. So you would start by removing these back cushions. We can go set those off to the side for now. And what you do is you go ahead and pick it up from the front, and you just give it a pull. That allows it to fold out. At this time, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and fold the legs out completely. So those are there on the bottom. And from there, you can go ahead and flip this down. Yep, flip that down. And then you have a secondary sleeping area. So it's a really cool fold-out couch. Not something that you typically will see in campers. It's pretty new to me. But it works well, and it's a pretty cool setup. Then in reverse, we're going to flip the back up, come over this way, again lift the bottom up, fold the legs in, allow that to pivot and come back down, and lastly we're going to replace the cushions. Something like that. What next? We have your 9-volt smoke alarm up top above my head. Now that is another piece of safety equipment, something we do want to test again every single time we take the unit out. 9-volt battery to let you know when it needs to be replaced. If you have any luck like me, it'll be at 3 a.m. or better. You'll be best suited to keep a spare battery with the unit. That way it's not keeping you up all night in the event that happens. So kind of ping-ponging around here into the TV area. You have a lot of stuff going on here. Of course, we have the bungee cord on the television. That's going to help keep it secure when going down the road. If we go ahead and remove that bungee cord, if we go ahead and remove that guy there, you still have a release, a pull chain style release. You can find that by locating this ring here. If I go ahead and pull down on that, that is again going to allow that TV to come fully out into the space, be able to directionalize, even point towards the bunks, depending on where within the camper you want to go ahead and watch that television. Above that, or behind that I should say, we have the termination of those satellite inlets, those cable satellite inlets that we saw on the outside of the camper. On the rooftop of this camper, we have an omnidirectional digital over-the-air antenna. That gets its power from this antenna booster plate, and we know that antenna is powered up if that green light's on. If I push the switch below it, that's going to go ahead and turn it off. The idea being is that you could go ahead and get to where you're going. You can turn that antenna on. Of course, run a channel search. That's going to automatically seek out your best signal and go ahead and bring in your programming in regards to that. Now, this is a 12-volt television set. you can also, if this were to give the ghost down the line, you have a 110 volt receptacle here. You can go ahead and replace that as necessary. And we're just going to feed this back in. Until we hear that latch, that lets us know we're locked in. And then, of course, we would replace the bungee before going down the road. Below that, we have your Furon system. Now, that's going to be CD, DVD, AM/FM radio, Bluetooth. All of those features are going to be utilized right here on the display. Does communicate with the television, so you're going to run an HDMI ARC in between television and stereo here. It works excellent for any of those features. I find most people these days can easily work themselves around the unit, although it does have its own service manual. If you have any questions, please feel free to consult that. You do have 2 zones. I want to bring that up. Those are going to be interior speakers as well as exterior speakers. Pay special attention to the volume of those exterior speakers and only make sure you're broadcasting that sound to the exterior when you want to and not inadvertently. We have light switches here. One's going to be, so this one's going to be a single light by this entry door, excuse me. The other is going to be some ceiling lights, which is just about all of the pendant lights here within this living area. And then if I had to guess, this one's going to be an exterior light. And it is going to actually be the awning light rail. So there's an LED light rail or light strip on the base of the awning. It is going to, of course, be that switch there. Now, beside that, we have your slide in and out switch here. Hold that button to bring that slide in, and then, of course, extend it to run it out. Nothing too crazy with that. And then again, we have your awning and extend and retract here. Again, both of these are momentary switches. You do have to hold them fully to bring either one of those fully in or out. Down below here, we have your fuse panel breaker box. What we have here is everything here on the left side is going to be your automotive blade style fuse. Those are going to be replaceable. Definitely not a bad idea to pick up a variety pack of fuses and keep them with the unit. Everything here on the right side is going to be a 110 volt light switch style resettable breaker. Same what you're going to find in your breaker box at home. Everything is labeled in terms of function right there on the door. Should be pretty straightforward in terms of operation. So hopping over here to the refrigerator. This is a Norcold refrigerator. On-off button is going to be here. Green light denotes that we are, whatever mode we are currently in is working at that time. So if say I was to run out of power, if I had this in AC and somebody interrupted my power supply, that's going to go over to red, default over to red, I should say. Single mode button, that's going to take you through the modes. This is a two-way refrigerator, so it runs on propane gas and 110 volt electricity. On auto, so if you see the A with the plug, that means that that if power is interrupted at some point, of course it defaults to AC voltage. If power is interrupted at some point, it's going to automatically start lighting on gas. Now that is really the most popular option with these units. If I hit that again, it's going to be standalone AC. If power gets interrupted at that time, there is no switch over. And then propane gas, of course, is your propane gas option. That's going to be your boondocking option. Your running down the road option is going to be propane. And then we have a thermometer here, or a temperature setting here. And if I go ahead and push this, the more snowflakes I see, the colder the unit becomes. Opening the door, nothing too crazy there on the inside. You know, it is a very, you know, it's a small dorm style refrigerator. If we go ahead and open the freezer, you can see what that looks like too. Coming here into the kitchen area of the unit, no real surprises here. You do have some USB chargers recessed there. underneath the drain board, which is a nice feature there. And then we have a cigarette lighter style 12-volt receptacle there for any 12-volt appliances. You know, again, under cabinet lightings here, we have the light for the hood vent and, of course, the fan. We have a Suburban oven and cooktop here. Go ahead and fold back this tempered glass cover here. When operating this, you're going to take advantage of the piezo igniter there. What you would do is you turn this to light. You're then going to go ahead and click that. It would light that burner. And of course, there's an indicator on which burner you light here. Oven's going to be lit in a slightly different manner. Slightly antiquated. You're going to go ahead and push this pilot light in, or push this knob when it is in that pilot setting. You're then going to come down here, and this is always kind of tough to get on camera, but you have two prongs down here. You have two prongs down there, and we would put our lighter in between those two prongs. One of those is a thermocoupler, and the other is the propane line. Again, very hard to catch on camera, but when you're looking at it physically, you can't miss it. So just put your flame directly in between those two prongs while holding this in. Once that pilot light appears, you're just going to hold this in for a few seconds longer. Let that thermocoupler heat up. Then it's going to stay on its own accord. You can then go ahead and fine-tune your knob here in terms of temperature. So very straightforward. Cabinetry here is all pretty straightforward. Not gonna open up all of those. I'll remove these just so we can get a look here at the sink. But again, it's not really anything crazy. The sheer size of it and being a single bay sink is spectacular. If you've done any research into campers, you probably already know that this is not what you generally see. It is a spectacular sink there, and it's very nicely done with these Corian countertops and things like that. Countertop extender here does just fold up there and locks once you put it up. Now you do manually need to disengage it, and to do so you kind of just lift up past that resting position and physically help these in. So you go ahead and hold those in. These lights in here, those are all going to be manually turned on and off at the fixture, and the overhead lights here are going to be turned on with this switch. Again, it's a redundant switch from what we saw over there. I think we're doing good, not missing anything. Standalone, run-of-the-mill microwave, turntable style microwave. In terms of function, nothing new for you. And again, we kind of have a lot of the usual suspects here. We have your furnace, or your thermostat here. Your heat and your air conditioner are going to be controlled from one central thermostat here. This is going to be your mode button. So if we go all the way to the left, that's going to be your air conditioner. Of course, this is your thermostat slider here. You're going to choose a temperature within that. And we have it on air conditioner here, and then we choose our fan speed here. Now, if we're on the left side of that, so if we go all the way to the left, that's going to be auto. What that means is that that's going to correspond with this thermostat set temperature. On that auto side of things, if it reaches the temperature you have set here, that's going to go ahead and power down. That's the more traditional operation, of course. If you come here on the right side of that, that's going to be a standalone fan speed. What that means is that fan is going to continue to run regardless of if it has reached that temperature or not. So pay attention to where you set that fan speed. That's going to make all the difference in that turning on and off. If we go to the right side of that switch there, that's going to take us into the furnace mode. If I go ahead and slide this all the way up there, that blower motor is going to kick on. 16 seconds after that, it actually ignites. By that 30-second mark, it's producing heat. By that, oh man. All right, let's start over with that. So switching this over here to the right side of things, That's going to kick us there into that furnace mode. In that furnace mode, that blower motor comes on immediately. 16 seconds after that, it actually ignites. By that 30-second mark, it's producing noticeable heat. Generally, about a minute and a half in, it may or may not set off your smoke alarm. In an area of this size, it is very hard to run a propane burning furnace like that and not have it affect the smoke alarm. Manufacturer of the furnace, states that that's totally normal, and it is. So as that furnace continues to run, within 15 minutes of operation, that efficiency is going to normalize, and it will cease to start setting off, or to stop setting off that smoke alarm. So just be prepared for that. I like to tell people that so they're not alarmed if it does happen. Of course, to turn it off, we're going to move one selection to the left from the furnace, and then it will go ahead and shut the system down. Very easy to navigate around. I find most people don't have any trouble with it. Over here to the dinette. Now, I'm not going to show you this. We're going to just talk our way through this. But this does make another sleeping area within the unit. This is a pedestal style table, although it be a very large one. So generally, they're not this big. You have a double pedestal. So the idea being is that we are going to work this tabletop from these pedestal bars here. And we're going to momentarily set that off to the side. We are then going to do the very same thing with those bars. We're going to wiggle those out of the flange down here on the floor. We're going to take those, we're going to go ahead and move them out of the way. We're then going to momentarily lift up these cushions from the base here. And then when we do so, that's going to expose these little rails here. We're then going to take our tabletop and we're going to set it on those rails there. From there, we have this nice flat surface. We're going to then take our rear cushions and we're going to rearrange the cushions so that those are taking the place of, or filling up the space that the tabletop is now lowered. Again, very large dinette bed. I mean, most campers do utilize this dinette, style of secondary sleeping area, but I've never seen one this big, so it is pretty massive and it will work well. I don't think a full-size adult would have any issues sleeping in this space. Lights here, they're going to be on and off directly at the fixture. Again, nothing too crazy out of the realm there. All of our windows, these large windows, are going to utilize a pull-down friction shade. So you just pull that down from the top. When you open the actual window, you have an unlock tab there, and that will allow you to go ahead and slide that window open like so. Coming here to the side of the cabinetry here, first up is going to be our freshwater tank heater. Now that's designed specifically for cold weather camping. That's going to keep your freshwater from freezing within the tank. So it is just a little heat strip on the bottom of that tank that is just going to provide enough heat to keep it from freezing. Here on your micro monitor, courtesy panel, however you want to, whatever you want to call it, is going to be a display here that's going to give you a real-time readout of where your tanks sit in level of full. So for example, battery is full. Battery is going to read full anytime you are plugged into shore power. To get a true readout of where your battery sits, you do need to unplug from shore power and then go ahead and test here. Fresh water is 2/3 full. Black water is empty as it should be. Gray water empty. Gray water 2 empty. Then down below here we have your water pump switch. That it turns on. You'll know it's on when this red light is on. And that's again how we're going to draw that fresh water up from that freshwater holding tank and make it usable at the fixtures. We then have your water heater sources here. Now this is a dual source water heater. It runs on propane gas as well as electric, or both. Now if you're running it on both sources, that's going to give you the highest recharge rate. You're looking at 17 gallons per hour. If you're running it on standalone gas, you're looking at like 15 gallons per hour. And then last is electricity at 11 gallons per hour. So you can choose your sources here as they present themselves. Now when I turn this water heater on, you can see this fault light comes on, and I'm not going to want to let it stay on too long because we don't have any water in it right now. So just imagine, if you will, with me, that is on, and that fault light is red. Now that fault light's going to turn on and off as it's going through its lighting cycle. It's going to try and light 3 times. If it does not light by the end of that 3rd cycle, that fault light is going to stay on. That is essentially your indicator that the water heater has not lit. May not have lit for many different reasons, but the common ones are either your valve is closed up front, either you don't have any more gas in the tank, or often with an extremely large unit like this, depending on the placement of the water heater, it may have just not, that gas may have not just made its way through the line yet. Either way, in the event that that happens, check and make sure you have gas in the tank, make sure your valve is open, and if that does happen, we're going to come in here and we're just going to flip that switch off, or excuse me, flip it off, flip it back on. It's going to go ahead and recycle another 3 times. Generally, as long as you've corrected the issue, you have gas in the tank, that valve is open, it's going to light on the first try of that 2nd cycle. So just something to keep in mind there. Large sliding door here that's going to give you privacy here within the main sleeping quarters. It does have a strap here to keep that from slamming here into the wall when going down the road. Now if I come here further into the room, we're going to start off with a secondary TV area here. Now you still have those same cable satellite terminations here, a 12-volt cigarette lighter style receptacle if you choose to add a 12-volt TV, and then a 110-volt plug as well. Center line for the TV backing is here, so that's where we're going to mount our TV, is at that location. We have up top here, we have a carbon monoxide detector. This is also going to run on a 9-volt battery. Again, it's going to let you know when it needs to be changed. And again, we do want to make sure we are testing that every time we take the unit out. Something we didn't talk about before, but if you want to get a shot down there on the floor of that cabinet, it's going to be your LP leak detector. That one in particular is wired into the 12-volt section of the camper, so there is no battery to change, but it does have a test button, and again, we are going to want to make sure we test it every single time we take the unit out. Now, not getting sidetracked here from within the bedroom area, underneath the bed there is storage, so a very efficient use of space under there is going to be that storage compartment, which is great. Use it as you will, but definitely take advantage of it. And then on each side of the bed, we have a couple USB ports to charge devices, and then we also have a 110 volt as well in the event that you were to need to run a CPAP machine or really anything. It's just a couple 110 volt outlets as well. You know, light fixture up top here is switched on the actual unit. Of course, we have your hanging space on each side of the bed, a little cabinet storage up here, maybe for folded clothes, whichever you prefer. Gonna switch places here and come this way and grab this remote. This is for the Max Air fan above our heads. Now this fan is an excellent addition. You have full control over temperature with this remote here. So I go ahead and push that on button. That's going to go ahead and open that vent and turn that fan on that last save setting. From there, I can just solely control fan speed in 10% increments there, and we're seeing that there on the bottom. And once if I dial that up to 100%, it really gets going. Now I can either bring air in from the outside, or I can exhaust air from within the camper. And again, you can switch directions on demand there. If I want to set a thermostat for the unit, I can go ahead and dial the plus or minus left or right. That's going to set a thermostat, and then that way, if we're, you know, overnight, that can kick on and off to maintain a certain temperature. And if I want to just circulate air within the camper, I can actually just close that lid. That fan's going to continue to run very much like a ceiling fan kind of operation, and just circulate air within the camper. Really cool to have control over that, not only with the remote, but the settings that you have. You should have no problem. Now that is also a 12 volt appliance. I like to refer to it as your 12 volt air conditioner if you are doing like a boondocking scenario, because that's all you got. In colder climate, it should work well. It does really get up there, and again, it moves a lot of air for a small footprint. I think that just about covers it here on the inside of the unit. We do hope that you enjoyed the walkthrough here on the Outdoors RV. If you have any questions here, anything that maybe we missed or we can re-explain, just give us a call. We'd be happy to walk you through it further. Thank you very much.